Hey everyone, Sean Harrington here. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a really quick demo and for the purposes of helping people understand how really flexible plusBASIC, the revised basic for the Aquarius Plus is. For those who don't know, Curtis F. Kaler is the architect of plusBASIC. He's rewritten the entire Aquarius Basic that was again released in 1983, reworked it with a lot of modern commands. He's integrated a lot of commands that are associated with the new features of the Aquarius Plus. Um, and it's really leaps and bounds above what the original Aquarius Basic was, which was a derivative of Microsoft Basic. Um, Rather than go into the details of plusBASIC, which either he will in his own videos or I will later on to go through some of the individual commands, I'm going to show you how Horoscope works. Horoscope, in terms of a background, was an arcade game, not really a video game. It was an arcade amusement game that came out in 1975, 1976 by a company called RAM-Tech. They no longer exist, like a lot of entertainment arcade companies, from that period. They were acquired, they sold off their stock. They had approximately 4 games, and a couple of them were video games, but RAM-Tech's Horoscope was not. It featured a large control panel that had dials and buttons on it, and it also had bleeding edge technology for that time, a dot matrix printer, 7-pin, 9-pin dot matrix printer from the Victor Adding Machine Company. They had developed an adding machine dot matrix printer, and it was all integrated. It would run the reports based on what your birth date was and what the report date was. It would print those out, feed them up, and then it would have a little guillotine inside the device that would print the paper off. And the printer would print in both black ink and red ink, for different things. I came to find out about it a couple of years ago in 2021. Somebody approached me, since I have done arcade restorations before, somebody approached me to fix their horoscope machine. They purchased it off of the Queen Mary, or they purchased it from somebody else who got it off of the Queen Mary, which is docked as a kind of a permanent fixture down in Long Beach, California, which is again about 30 minutes south of where I live. And I went through the process of reworking it. The PCB was it used an 8088 or an 8080, which is a precursor to the Z80. I did not get the motherboard or the printer working. They seemed functional, but it was beyond my skill set. So what I did was I completely reprogrammed the horoscope planetary positions and all of those things using reference material online, and I used 2 Arduino Megas. One of them had a memory module on it so that the calculations would have more elbow room, and then I put a new similarly configured dot matrix printer from, I think it's a DP3250 or something like that. It's an older receipt printer from 10, 20 years ago. And then I used that rather than have the guillotine, which was actually pretty scary when it went off. Rather than have that, I fabricated a simple tear-off mechanism where the users could print it off. And then I delivered it to the owner, and they were very happy with it. We touched it up. They still wanted to keep a little bit of the patina on it, so we didn't like completely overhaul it so it looked brand new. They wanted to have that kind of cool, funky 1970s look to it. Okay, so a couple years went by, and I was looking for a project to show off some of the features of plusBASIC, all the great work that Curtis had put into it. I was originally going to do a Christmas demo, but many of the components that I needed to complete the demo at the time weren't quite functional. They are now. Curtis has since implemented them, but holidays are always crazy, so I didn't get to implement that holiday demo. So I figured I would do Horoscope. Also, I would do only part of Horoscope because Horoscope actually has 5 reports. I'm only going to do Biorhythms, which is a pretty easy program to figure out. You're basically creating sine waves on 3 different prime number, well, 2 prime numbers and then 1 standard number waveforms that start from your date of birth and forward. And it's pseudoscience, it's most of the time you can't really prove it associated with any sort of real ups and downs within your life, but a lot of people think they're fun. I used to like them when I was in high school, which is the first time I learned to calculate those. I actually calculated that on an old TI 99, something like that, an old digital calculator. All right, so enough of the intro. So let's take a look. I'm running Aquarius emulator here. Let's go in. As of this writing, the current version of the OS is 0.27, and the current version of plusBASIC is 0.22K. Let's take a look. I have my auto-exec file set to automatically go into the horoscope folder. So you'll see this here. It is within the standard SD card directory. It is in demos and then a folder called horoscope. So let's take a look and see what's in here. There are 2 items. There's a RUN-ME.BASIC file and there is the data directory. Let's go into the data directory really quickly. CD data here. There's a lot of items in here. You can see there's SCR files, which are screen files, the 40-column screen files. There's a couple of basic programs in there. There's an ARRY file or 2. Those are array files where I store data in them. I have a couple of older versions of Biorhythm in there that I'm using as reference. I will clean them as they go along, but I think they're interesting. And then towards the bottom, notice that I also have a CHR file, which is the character ROM file. I have the symbols for the horoscope in there and some other things. There's also a PT3 music file and some other interesting things that I have not yet implemented. You can see at the bottom there's a worldtz.scr file. That's for the time zone offset, which is necessary when we get into the 4 other reports, which it's not currently doing. So let's go back one. So we're in the horoscope directory. I also, on my auto exec, have the RUN-ME.BASIC file set to go, and it should go into it. I don't know if the audio will play through this. It typically should, but let's see. I'll check on the video. So here we are. This is actually running the RUN-ME.BAS.BASIC file. Here's the code that is executing right now. I tend to break up my my launcher programs into a couple of different sections. I normally set the main loop at around the 2000s, the 1100s. I do for setup. That's, here I set to turbo mode. The Aquarius does have a fast mode where it runs about twice as fast using the existing Z80. Here is the character file, the character RAM. That's why you can see there are, the font is a little bit different here than what you're normally used to seeing. The rest of the pixel font character set is still there. And what I'm going to do now, I've got this loop here. So this is our loop. This is what's making this press any key to begin blink. So what I'm doing is it's cycling through. I do a little bit of a delay here. This is just to debounce any keys. And then what I do is I get the current seconds of the date time, and I divide it by 2 and then take the remainder of it. If it's a 1, then the screen is on, and I store this little screenlet in an array. And then the other half is when it's turned off, which is this other little screenlet. And then if the key is pressed, then I just go on to the next part of it. So let's move on. We're going to press any key. I'm just going to hit the space bar. So here we are at the Horoscope.BASIC program. So we have our main menu here. Here are each of the menu options. We have Q to quit the program, A for about. Let's see what that looks like. Oops. Be within the window itself. Here's A. And again, this kind of paraphrases the little story that I told you about the arcade machine. And then an important thing. I don't know if you guys are already being driven nuts by the music, but I am. So if you push the M key within the window, it'll turn the music off. Let's see how that actually works here. So for me, if the M key is pressed, I do toggle mu, which is toggle music. What does it look like? Here's that. All it does is it flips a value, which we set up here. Where is our mu? Mu equals the PT3 status. PT3 status is 1 if it's playing, 0 if it's not. So I get that at the very beginning, and then I toggle it. If it is, then I resume, or if it's turned off, then I resume it. If it's not, then I pause it. So this just basically toggles the music between those two. Let's see what our other menu options are. Right now, 1, 2, 3, 4 are turned off. Notice that Futura, Birth, Aspects, and Stars don't really do anything. I've got this, I just loop back to the main menu. It doesn't do anything. If I remove this line, it would go to the Futura Basic program, but it doesn't do that. Biorhythm has been fixed, so it actually does go to Bio Loader, and you'll see what that does. Notice I don't really have this. The Bio Loader just lets you know that we're doing something. So let's see here. Q is to quit the program, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So let's toggle the music on and off. So there's the music. Let's go to Biorhythm, and you'll see where we go to this BioLoad screen. And we're going over to BIORHYTHM.BASIC. So this is it. There's a lot to set up, a lot of dimensioned arrays in here, and those do take a little bit of time to set up, even in turbo mode. So notice we have a default name and birth date that comes in. Right now, it is April 5th, 2024. I don't have the time because biorhythms are only based on date. I suppose you could check to see if it was before or after, but you would need to know the time that you were born, and that's a little tedious. We have some similar items here. We've got the About menu, the toggle music, and again, we do that. It still toggles the music. This About page is a little bit different. It says what Biorhythms does. It talks about the physical, emotional, and intellectual waves. It also talks about what criticals, double criticals, and triple criticals are. And we can do a couple of things here. We can exit to the main horoscope menu. Let's do that really quickly. Let's go back into Biorhythm. You can see that it, again, takes a little while for the program to load. And let's actually edit some data in these. All right, so notice here it says Tab Next Field. We're going to go to Tab and watch what happens to these 4 items, to the A, X, M, and Q items. Notice when we go here, I may want to type an A, an X, a Q, or an M. So I turn those options off temporarily. And notice that I highlighted this field so that it shows up. Let's actually go down here in our code, and here are each of our options. What I do is I have to keep track of each of these 7 fields, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have FX, or field index. 0 means that it's not on any of the fields, which is right here. When it's on field index 1, that's when I go to name edit, right? So it scanned that and it executes this name edit. And again, since there are text characters in here, I don't want the Q, A, M, or X to run because we may need to type those in there, and that would be distracting. So here is our name edit loop. We do a couple of clever things. Here is where I actually blank this section out. I've got a little B2 screen array that I've loaded up in here that shows text input or bio input, text input. Those are the two between which it toggles. And it takes that little array that's been dimensioned for that and switches between that. This is our loop. We use the get key string, and get key will not do anything else. It will only get a key until a key is pressed. So you wouldn't use get key if you wanted to have keyboard or if you wanted to have joystick input or do anything else. The program literally stops except for music. So right here, even though I can't in this field, if I were to go to this field, sorry, if I were to go to this field, notice that the music is here. Even though I'm in this birth year edit loop, which is this loop here, I can still do music. Oops. It's going to be the bane of my existence. So I can turn this on or off even when I'm in edit mode, which is kind of cool. All right, so let's circle back around and let's see what else this name edit loop does. Well, it does a couple of things. First of all, it sets this M key or MKS, sorry, name edit. It sets this TN string value, the name string, to nothing, and then it immediately does a get key and puts that value into it. So for the tab, the return, and either the delete or backspace key, that's what these two do, we've got different options. So I can tab to the next field, which you've seen happen. I can actually hit return and it will run that, which we'll do. I don't want to give that away quite yet. Or we can delete. So let's, within this name field, let's actually push the backspace or the delete key. I'm kind of alternating between those right now. And let's put my name in, Sean H. And then it does take spaces. So notice if I go to the end, it makes a little bit of a beeping sound for feedback, so you know that it's not doing that. And then it automatically updates it. It's there, Sean H. This field here, this is not my birthday. This is about 30 years after my birthday. So let's update that. We can do a couple things. We can delete, and then notice it sets it as a 0. Let's say I was born in 1967, and I say, nope, it was 1968. Well, notice it's now pushing the characters. It's inserting characters. 888 is not a valid year. So we don't want to leave that in there because it'll create problems. So let's go down to birth year edit. And once it's been inserted, once we exit the BY loop, we have to check. So we are going to check birth year. So let's actually go down here. And you can see the edits that I do on the birth year to do the check. It's way down here. So check birth year is part of a big loop for check fields, but it's also a smaller loop here. Here's check birth year. So what I do is I say if the field, when I exit it, is less than 1900, I just set it to 1900. Or if it's greater than 2099, I doubt that, I mean, some people may come back to do this, but they can just edit it. If it goes past 2099 to 2100 or whatever. So let's see, we went to 888. So let's see what actually happens. It should go to whatever the current year is. So this is the date time left for, which should be our current year. It's 2024. And let's see. Yep, there it is. It updated that. Okay, so now let's take a look at check birth month. So the month can't be less than 0, and it can't be more than 12. So let's enter 99. It should default to 12, which it does. And then the birth day is very similar. I do a little more detail. If it tries to do a month that has 30, September, April, June, November, those 3, and then there's also a handler for the month of February, so that there's not more than 29 days in that. So this is set for 2024 December of this year. This actually takes place in the future, so this can't run properly. All right, so let's go here. Let's set it for my actual birthday, 1967-02-14. And we're just going to leave it as today's date, which again, that is the default. But rather than run it, let's actually exit. We're going to press the X key and go back to the main menu. And you'll see something interesting that happens. Now, this is a completely different program. This is the Horoscope.BASIC program, and we are now in this main menu loop, again, waiting for the 5 key to be pressed. Notice what happens. Whenever you start a new program, and we load a new program, what happens? All the variables get set to no value unless you set them in your initialization. So let's see what's going on here. Again, I don't have any code in here that specifically says what those values are going to be. I keep the values for the name in one array, and then I keep the values for the birth date and report date, the year, the month, the day. So that's 6 different values. And there's actually one additional value that's for counting days. But let's go here and let's go into biorhythm and let's see what happens. All right. And this is in fast mode, so you can see how big this program is and how long it takes. Notice it actually saved what I did there. Sean H., that was the field that I had before, 1967, February 4th. So let's take a look at how biorhythm.basic does that. Okay, so we're going to go here and let's see where we get that data. So I'm storing it in an array called DT, the datum array. And it's going to have different values in each of it. It's got 2 values in the first one, 0 and 1, and then 4 values in the second. The first one, the 0 is for the date of birth, which is this upper one. The 1 is for the report date, which is the second one. So let's take a look at the second value. Now this is the day count that I was talking about. When you dimension this, it's uncalculated. I do have a calculation that I do later on that gives me the day count from the year 19 from January 1st, 1900. That's from which this day count is calculated, and that's how we align the biorhythms so that they know how far. And then we store the year and the month and the day in those. So where am I getting those from? Well, first let's take a look at the name. The name bioarray is getting loaded in from this NM bioarray thing, and I'm putting that into the name field. So I'm actually saving it out when I exit. So let's go down to the very end here. Notice that I'm saving whatever is currently in NM string, which is a very small text string array. I'm actually saving it back into this, and it's overriding it every time I exit the program. Now, whether I go back to horoscope menu or whether I actually close out and quit the program, it does the same thing. This is to stay within the program. This is without. And then I do the same thing here for this datum array. So I say the datum bio array out. So that's where all of this is saved. Now, this one gets overwritten by default when you go into the program because most people want the current date and time. And that's what we do here. Even though we load this in, whatever value is here will stay there. But what we're doing is we're then immediately setting it to the year, which is the left 4, the month, which is the middle 2 starting at 5, and then the day, which is the middle 2 starting at 7. I'd go ahead and load those in just because that's when most people want to run it. They want to run it for today's date. That doesn't stop you from going in and changing it. You can absolutely do that. We wanted to run it for the same day that I was born, we could do that. Okay, so how do we refresh these, or how do we do these field refreshes? Well, let's go to name edit. So notice these poke color strings. Once we go into edit mode, again, remember the first thing we're doing is we're taking away these AXQM commands. So that's what this does. Over here, we are poking a color at 6 times 40 plus 20, which is actually this here. And we do it for 14 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And we are doing this character, or this color code, which is a white background and a blue text, which is what you can see here. Not the dark blue, but the blue text. That's what this value is. I got that by going into Aquarius Draw when I modeled these screens to see what color I wanted. And then when I go to the next one, when I actually exit, notice that I poke in the exact same location a different value, 120. That is this light gray with a white text on top of it. That is this 120 character. So that's the way I toggle between these two. And let's see. All right, so we've explained kind of the ins and outs of how we do this field selection. So it behaves like a modern form would on a web form. Crap, let's do that. I keep forgetting that I'm over here and it wants to edit the text of this. All right, so we are here. We are now on no fields. Let's actually do a run report while we are within this, while we're actually editing the name field. So I'm going to hit return. Notice that I put charting biorhythm at the bottom to give people an update. So here's the process of it charting. It is doing this real time. And notice that today's date, today is a Friday, so it puts Friday here, and then it progresses Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So this is a week later, this is 2 weeks later. We do have a little bit of a triple critical here. Looks like midday on Saturday. Again, if you're into biorhythms, you would be watching out for this. Red is physical, blue is intellectual, so be careful. It's also in very close proximity to an emotional thing. So this is a double critical, but it's followed up very closely within 24 hours or so. This would have been a triple critical. Now this is where they do converge. Notice that the red plus blue equals the magenta. Down here, the green plus the blue gives us a cyan. Here, the green plus the red gives us an amber. And here, all three colors RGB are together, so we blend these 4 colors together. But it's still just using the top, middle, and bottom dash characters from the regular Aquarius command set. Take a look at a couple things we've got going here. Notice that I put the name here. I offset it so it becomes right aligned to this character. I do that by getting the length starting at the length plus this value, minus 14, so that it always aligns that. It puts the current date for the chart date. Well, it puts whatever you set for the chart date. And I notice that it puts my birth year, birth month in there. And this says that this is a biorhythm. So let's take a look at how we do this. How are biorhythms charted? So let's get past all of the edit fields. Chart biorhythm. So again, the first thing we do is on that screen, we say charting the biorhythm. We poke the color down there for the 21 characters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 21 characters. We set it to 126, which is actually white on a red background. We do check fields because we want to make sure that all of the fields are correct. If somebody happened to slip in a 99 at the end and that they were actually editing, month 99 and then hit enter, we want to do the check fields again to correct it. And then we do the days. The days function remember we said this is for the birth date, this is for the report date. So what we do is we do the days calculation. So the days calculation is really interesting, and thanks to Curtis for helping me get this to work on the Aquarius. So what does the days do? It calculates the days since January 1st, 1900. We do a couple of things. We set our day counter for whichever we're doing. Again, 0 is for the birth, 1 is for the report date. We currently set it to 0 in case there's anything else in there because we're going to add it to itself. What we're going to do is we're going to loop from 1900 to whatever the current year is. So it's for, again, 0 for birth date, 1 for the report date. So whenever it's the year minus 1, we add up to that. So very quickly, it adds all of that up to calculate the date. And then it does a couple of calculations. It adds the number of dates for that in the loop to 365. And then we have a function that we've created here called leap year, which does a calculation. And then we do a couple of other things in here to correct things. And then that leaves that calculated value in the 0 position in the datum, in the 0 position in whatever version it is. So let's take a look at this leap year function. And that is way up here in our initialization section. Where's our function? Here it is, leap year function. So what we say is we set the absolute value of the signum of whatever the year is we're processing. So we feed in the year. 1967 is my birth year. It'll take the mod of that of 4, which will give us the leftovers, and then we subtract the sigma of the year divided by 100, or the leftover, the remainder of the year divided by 100, and then we do by 400, because 400 is a slightly different scenario, and then it returns that value and does the calculation. We also have a day of week, which is where we can determine what the day of week is based on whatever the current year that we're sending. Day years is an array that we set up. Where is that? This is just the placeholder for now, but we do load the day year in here, which is DL. This is the day of week, which does Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, which is this calculation here. And then I'm trying to see where we set those day years. It's somewhere in here. I can't remember exactly, but that's how we associate with how many days there are in a particular month. We add that all up. So long-winded excuse for that. So let's see. All right, so we have calculated that. Just to show that this isn't static, that it can change, let's actually see what it looks like at the beginning of when you're born. So Sean H., I'm going to set the report date to 1967. Oops, 1967, 02, 14. So biorhythms start on a cycle. Let's actually run that. And you'll notice here that, again, it starts off with a triple critical, and it takes each of these sine waves. Now, what is the sine wave? What are the 2 prime numbers that we have here? Let's go to chart biorhythms. So where is it? Okay, so to calculate the physical, hold on, I'm trying to see, 40, so that's the character color. I'm trying to see where the actual calculation of the, there are 40. Oh, here we are. So here are the calculations for that. So for physical, P, this cycle happens every 23 days. So if we were to go 23 days out, the red cycle would be back up to here at 23 days. So on day 24, it would be back at 0. So what's half of 23? It's roughly 14, so let's count those out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So here it is. It's at about that same point where we get half of the cycle. It's a little bit over because remember, it's actually 13 and a half. Sorry, 12 and a half right here. The emotional is a 28-day cycle. So that means at 14, which is about right here, that makes sense. And then the intellectual is a 33-day cycle. So 33, half of that is about 16, which again is here's 2 weeks, which is 14 days. That's about right. Okay, so that's how we generate those. So again, it is real time. Let's go back here one more time and show you that it changes the name. Back it up. Aquarius. What was the Aquarius born on? It was born on 1983, 06, 05. Then let's see how it does today, 2024, 06, 05, or not today. Let's go to today, 04, 05. So how is the Aquarius doing today? Yeah, you can see that the charts are all over the place, which is kind of cool. Anyway, so that's it. I do invite you to come download this software. It's available again in the SD card folder. Take a look at the code. Again, you can just take a look at this with a text editor and see what I've done. See how I've done some of these little things to make it all work. and ask me questions. I'm always happy to. So then when we come to quit, one of the last things we do is this. Hope you enjoyed horoscope. And again, I hope you found this interesting and educational.